Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Had yourselves a fantastic Monday and a great start to your work week. I got you a big update tonight on Idalia. We'll continue to try to feed you guys the latest and greatest information, and that's what we'll do in this video. We'll go over what she looks like right now, the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. We'll compare model guidance. We'll talk about impacts, what's steering Idalia, what's promoting strengthening, and we'll just go over all the information that you as the public really need to hear. So we'll continue to do that for you folks. I'll do it one more time tomorrow morning. And if you didn't tune into my live a couple hours ago that I did, I will be chasing Idalia. So I'll be leaving out tomorrow evening. Definitely wish me luck. I'm asking for prayers just for safe travels, no car issues, and obviously safety. But tune in if you're interested. I'll be going live every once in a while. I don't have a current setup where I can just do a consistent live feed like a lot of storm chasers, but I will be kind of just vlogging my adventure. And you guys, if you want to tag along, certainly definitely consider doing it. It'll be an experience, that's for sure. That's one way to put it. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I've been struggling starting this video for some reason. I keep having to restart it over. So hopefully I flow through it well. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. I really appreciate the support lately. The videos have been doing well, and we're getting really close to that 50,000 subscribers mark. So thank you all for supporting me. It means the world. Thank you just for supporting a kid that has a passion. It really does mean a lot. So let's get rolling here. A satellite on what Idalia looks like right now. It's kind of getting that scary face look, right? We had a system a few years ago that had this look over the Greater Antilles. It's kind of got that just scary look. But Idalia has not improved much from this morning. She's went up 5 miles per hour. She's a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. That's about the most high end of a tropical storm you can get before you go up 5 more miles per hour to a Category 1 hurricane. But she has definitely been struggling with some shear. She is not really vertically stacked, still tilted with a little bit of height, which means that mid-level convection it's kind of tilted away from that low-level circulation. Okay, which means that the core is not being fully wrapped around, which means you're not going to, basically what I'm trying to say is you're not getting any kind of crazy, intense intensification or anything like that right now. That will change once it gets into the Gulf, but I can tell you, the more she struggles in the short term, the better it is for the Gulf coastline. Okay, but you take a look at this again on the water vapor loop, it's definitely getting that look to it. Okay, but it's been having this look for about 24 hours now. It's definitely got a very rich plume of moisture to its north. There is some dry air really close to the northwest side of this system, but there is some shear that it's really not shown that well in this water vapor loop. There's some shear that's really tilting this storm, and like I said, you're not having great vertical alignment between that mid-level convection and that low-level circulation that you need. But this will change. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's inevitable that we're going to have a very strong hurricane in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. It's just how strong. Is it going to be that upper end, like Category 4, potential Category 5 status? Or are we going to have a kind of a floor scenario, a low-end scenario, which I think, in my opinion, is a, excuse me, a high-end Category 2 hurricane, low-end Category 3 hurricane. I don't think the floor is very low, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be a hype alarm, hype this up or anything just for clicks and things like that. I'm just being honest. I think you guys on the Florida coastline, the Gulf Coast can agree. A lot of times these systems end up verifying much more high end than what we initially might think that they're going to do. So we'll give you the latest information from the National Hurricane Center, and I'll update this to see if we have any new information. We do not. So I do want to let you guys know, as of right now, it's just before 7 p.m. Another update will come out in probably about 45 minutes to an hour. There is a chance this gets upgraded to a hurricane, but as of now, I have reason to believe it will stay around tropical storm status, a 70 mile per hour hurricane. I'm sorry, a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. But we'll see what happens. This could upgrade another 5 miles per hour. And then, of course, this will be a hurricane. But as of now, has a low pressure, a minimum central pressure of 987 millibars. Okay, so it has deepened a little bit since this morning, but not much, only 2 millibars. Okay, it's a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. So you continue to move forward here, and we look at the cone, and it is forecast to become a hurricane sometime on the next update or two. And then it will become a major hurricane, which if you don't know what a major hurricane is, what's that's considered, that is a Category 3 hurricane or higher. That is considered a major hurricane, and it will be that sometime later tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. And then it will make a landfall, most likely as a major hurricane, sometime probably Wednesday morning. The time frame has backed up some. We were thinking maybe this was going to make landfall before the sun even came up Wednesday morning. And now it's looking like it's going to get pushed forward a little bit later into the morning after the sun comes up. But this could change a little bit. But it's moving north at about 8 miles per hour. And it's definitely picked up a little bit of forward speed. And I think it will continue to pick up that forward speed. And we'll talk about why here in a second. But I can tell you the cone has shifted ever so slightly back west some. This will bring more people in Georgia and the Carolinas and the impact zone. Okay, so we got to watch this. Does this continue to make ticks west or either ticks back east? We certainly got to figure that one out. But hurricane warnings up for areas of western Cuba, areas of the Big Bend, areas of Florida, the central panhandle of Florida, all the way down into the Tampa Bay, Clearwater, Sarasota areas. You got hurricane watches south of these regions too. If you really look closely in the pink, that is hurricane watches up against and along with tropical storm warnings. You even got tropical storm watches in the yellow that extend basically down the Space Coast of Florida, the eastern coastline of Florida, all the way up to almost Myrtle Beach. Okay, there is going to be tropical storm force conditions even into the low country of South Carolina. All right, the peak forecast intensity of this has went up. So this is a great site. It's called Zoom Earth. I've said it multiple times, but it's almost like it combines the tropics with Google Earth. It's free. It's very easy to use. As you can tell, I can click on this and move it like this. Sorry to make y'all dizzy. But it's a great, fantastic site that I've found about 2 years ago. Like I said, around 2 p.m. tomorrow, this should be about a 105 mile per hour hurricane based off the National Hurricane Center update. And then by around 2 a.m., Wednesday night, 2 a.m. Wednesday morning technically, forecast intensity is bumped up another 5 miles per hour based off, which has increased from the information I gave you guys in this morning's video. So now we have a peak intensity of 120 miles per hour. Okay, that's a Category 3 major hurricane, and one would argue that this definitely continues to strength as it continues to head northeast into the coastline of Florida. Still potentially could be a Category 1 hurricane into northern Florida and maybe even into southeast areas of Georgia. Okay, still a tropical storm by 2 a.m. Thursday, just outside the Charleston area. And yeah, and you can see Franklin over here. Franklin is a buzz saw of a hurricane. Currently 145 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane. If it was to go up another, I believe if it goes up another, 20, and I believe if it goes up another 10 to 15 miles per hour, it would be a Category 5 hurricane. But we're not expecting it to be that strong. But this is your classic looking hurricane out here. But we're not going to talk about Franklin at all in this video, just focusing in on Idalia. But it definitely is a great structured hurricane out here, not affecting anybody as of right now. But this is the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. Like I said, this could change on the next update. Now let's compare model, guys. What we'll do first is we'll talk about the GFS, all right? And we'll start off Tuesday morning. The GFS is already initializing Tuesday morning weaker than what the storm actually is. It's initializing as a 989 right down here millibar low pressure storm. Currently, it's a 987 millibar storm tonight. So it's already off on strength, but I'm just showing you this just because I want to compare the global models with the hurricane models. We continue to keep this moving here. It actually weakens the system. The higher up this number goes, the weaker the system. It actually weakens the system, which is kind of odd as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe because some dry air. We'll have to watch that. Okay, we get into Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, it begins to strengthen it again. And then we get into the middle of the night, Wednesday. It's about a 980 millibar hurricane at this point. And then we get into Wednesday morning, and this is staring down the Panhandle Big Bend region of Florida as a 968 millibar hurricane. I would argue that's probably a Category 2 hurricane, and makes landfall sometime Wednesday morning, mid to late morning, as maybe a Category 2 hurricane based off the GFS. The GFS actually weakened compared to the run at the 12Z, but the GFS has always been further west. We can't really focus too much on the strength with the global models. They could be on to something. They could be. Okay, we can't just totally discredit them altogether. But global models typically have more of a weak bias when it comes to these low pressures. But the GFS makes landfall as a sub 970 millibar hurricane and then brings big impacts into North Florida and to southern areas of Georgia, would bring tropical storm force conditions Wednesday evening into all of southeast Georgia, southern Georgia, even into areas of central Georgia. I mean, Augusta, look at this huge, basically shield of very heavy rain, gusty winds. It's still a 989 millibar low pressure tropical storm still riding through Georgia. And then this brings a lot of heavy rain even into the Midlands of South Carolina, PD of South Carolina sometime Wednesday night. And then we're waking up Thursday morning and we still got this low pressure over land. And with a lot of rain and gusty winds still being dealt with over the Carolinas. So, and this continues and kind of wants to try to do some kind of weird loop-de-loop and actually bring what's ever left over of Idalia back into South Florida next week. Okay, that's 2 runs in a row that the GFS has done this. It's very odd. We'll continue to try to figure that out, but we need to talk about what's right in front of us first. What does the European do? Well, it initializes it way too weak. Okay, Tuesday morning has this as a 993 millibar low pressure tropical storm still. Does it weaken overnight? I mean, we don't know for sure, but indications point that it's not going to do that, but we'll have to watch. And we're going to fast forward this to about, let's take it all the way. Let's take it all to Wednesday morning. And has this making landfall a little bit further, actually a good tick further east and southeast of the GFS into the Big Bend region of Florida. I can tell you the European has stuck with its guns as far as where it wants to make landfall. One thing that it continues to consistently be is just weaker than most model guidance, okay, and that includes the National Hurricane Center. It makes landfall as either a strong Category 1 hurricane or weak Category 2 hurricane into the Big Bend region of Florida Wednesday morning, and just takes more of a further southeast track compared to the GFS, but would bring big-time impacts into Jacksonville, would bring impacts into southeast Georgia. This would basically grind up against the South Carolina and Georgia coastline Wednesday night and bring tropical storm force conditions and some nasty storm surge into the low country of South Carolina, Charleston, even up into Surfside Beach, Myrtle Beach region, Savannah. This would cause tropical storm force conditions late Wednesday night into Thursday morning, okay, all the way into the Wilmington area, maybe all the way into the southern areas of the Outer Banks. And then this heads on off. In fact, it basically tries to re-strengthen again based off the Euro off the coast of the South Carolina coast. All right, it actually tries to maintain strength to re-strengthen this because it gets back over water. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to show you some hurricane models. What I want to show you guys, and I want you guys to notice is, out of all 3 of these hurricane models I'm going to show the HMON model, the H-half-A, and the H-half-B. I can tell you the H-half-A is initializing this way too strong at a 969 millibar hurricane, okay? Pretty strong hurricane at this point too, a Category 1 strong hurricane or Category 2. Now the H-half-B model is initializing this a little bit too strong too, about 6 millibars too deep. So it's just a little bit too strong too, but it's much closer than the H-half-A. But the HMON model, hurricane model, initializing it pretty well. In fact, 1 millibar weaker. So it's the closest. So I feel like this is the best model to look at just because it's initializing it the best from the 12Z run. So we go on and keep this rolling here. We get into Tuesday morning. It does not show much strengthening between now and by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. That'll be something to watch. I think it gets some big-time forward motion to it. I think it moves a good bit further north, but it doesn't strengthen this much overnight. But we'll watch. And we continue to get into Tuesday afternoon at this point, and as you can tell, it goes from it drops about 5 millibars in about a 6 to 8 hour period, and by the time we're getting in Tuesday afternoon, in fact, it goes from 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon to a 981 millibar low pressure hurricane to a 974. So basically it drops, what, 7 millibars in about a 3-hour period. This is indicating, and then it drops another 3, and then it drops another 4, and then here it comes. Look at these outer bands beginning to roll in. But I can tell you, this run is a good bit further west than all the other model guidance, except the GFS. This matches up with the GFS pretty well. But we'll stop it here. This is around Wednesday morning, and it's hitting this section right here of the Panhandle. Really lashing it with these nasty outer bands. This would be some tornadic activity in these outer bands because this is the dirty side of the storm. And this is much further west. This is not plowing right into the Big Bend region. And we can continue to keep this going. This makes landfall around mid to late morning as around a 950-ish millibar low pressure hurricane. One would argue that that is probably a low-end Category 3 hurricane making landfall into the Panhandle of Florida. Okay, and you continue to keep this going, guys, to bring this will bring low-end hurricane, high-end tropical storm force conditions well into Georgia, and then by the time we're getting into late Wednesday evening, this is bringing very heavy rain and gusty winds into Augusta, Columbia, Orangeburg, Florence, and yeah, this shows it tracking pretty far west. Okay, and it finally re-gets this low pressure back over water off the coast of the Outer Banks sometime Thursday evening. So we got to watch these west ticks for sure. Okay, we look at the HFB model, which isn't doing bad at initializing this, but really deepens this system between now and basically the next 24 hours. And by the time we get into around 5 a.m. Wednesday morning, we have a 933 millibar pressure major hurricane. This would be a Category 4 hurricane. Makes landfall a little bit east of the HMON model, but it is a little bit further west of where the cone is right now. It's in the cone, but it's a little bit further west of that center that it has it going into. This makes landfall, guys, 11 a.m. as a 926 millibar hurricane. One would argue that that's pushing mid to high-end Category 4 status as far as Idalia. So this would be a devastating, catastrophic scenario if this model was correct. And this continues just to roll on through southeast Georgia and bring tropical storm force, low-end hurricane force conditions well into Georgia, maybe even reaching all the way into South Carolina. South Carolina will definitely get in some areas tropical storm force conditions. Let me slow down and talk a little bit better. But that's model guidance. We'll talk about in ensembles. I know this is going to show up a little bit fuzzier on your screen, but well, a little bit smaller on your screen. This is the European ensemble. Basically makes up 51 runs and creates one run with it. And in this case, it shows all the lines of all the runs that it combines. And there is basically pretty solid agreement that most of these runs plow right into the Big Bend of Florida. But there is some runs over here. There is some runs that get close to Tampa Bay. Okay, so we'll have to watch that. But a lot of this model guidance really likes, as far as the European ensemble, really likes the Big Bend region of Florida. Now you look at the GEFS ensemble, the ensemble of the GFS. This is much further west. It likes more so the Panhandle of Florida. Okay, so we're still having disagreement. We're having disagreement with the global models and the hurricane models, and they're disagreeing with one another. So we got some hurricane models disagreeing with others. We got the global models disagreeing with one another. Okay, so it's very interesting. Okay, what's steering this? We've talked about this many times. I'm going to go over this pretty quickly. There's an upper low digging down into the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to draw on this a little bit and not really get it into motion at all. But there is an upper low kind of coming down in here and yanking this up, if you will. At the same time, there's a pretty hefty cold front digging down. This will help give this a boot back off the coast of the southeast. Told you guys I'm struggling a little bit this evening. I wish every video flowed as well as yesterday. I wish every video flowed as well as this morning's video. This morning's video was perfection. But we got this ridge right here over areas of the Lesser and Greater Antilles. If you look at these little wind barbs, they're facing this way, which indicates the winds are coming out of this way. So we got winds going over this weak ridging right here, and then they kind of go like this, and then they kind of go back like that. This is actually what kind of gave Bermuda a little bit of a scare, was this kind of ridge, because it was looking like it was going to feel the influence of this ridge and maybe steer it a little bit closer to Bermuda, but now this is looking like it's going to move well north of Bermuda. But this southerly flow that you're seeing right here, you see how these wind barbs are pointing to the south? That indicates winds are coming out of the south. This is actually helping to aid in pushing Idalia into this little narrow area, and basically is why it's pushing it into the kind of that northeast directional push into the Big Bend area of Florida. So you continue to keep rolling here. That's what's driving this. I hope that makes sense. If you hear any loud noises in the background, my little girls are getting in the shower in the other bathroom on the other side of the wall, and chances are they'll probably screech or scream. But we look at sea surface temperatures too, guys, and 31, 32 degrees Celsius, the Fahrenheit, is basically the upper 80s. Okay, we even got little pockets just off the coast of Tampa Bay, probably in the low 90s as far as sea surface temperature. So I know, we all know that the Gulf of Mexico is very, very warm. In some cases, I mean, it might be downright hot. This time of the year, you go swimming in the Gulf of Mexico, it's not really even comfortable. It's one of the warmest bodies on Earth, one of the warmest bodies of water on Earth, and it certainly is no different this year, as it's a couple degrees above average this year. So we talk about impacts. There is an area right into the Big Bend region of in the northern sections of this area that's calling for 6 to 10 inches of rain. So we're expecting a lot of rain into this area. And then the yellow area, that is 4 to 6 inches of rain. So just really, just know where you are, obviously, on the map, which I imagine most of us do. And this has not changed much from this morning's video at all. In fact, it doesn't look like it's changed really at all from this morning's video. But we are expecting a good bit of rain, and that's why we do have that moderate risk of excessive rainfall, flash flooding, which means in the red area, you have at least a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles of any given location between now and the duration of this entire event, which is Idalia. So the yellow area is a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met, but we're going to get some big time flooding in this red area. We have an unusual, very high tide right now too. So this is going to drastically affect storm surge and just a lot of water getting pushed into the coastline of South Carolina also. So this is something to watch for sure. We can look at this another way. This is the National Weather Service forecast as far as rainfall totals between now and Thursday morning. As you can tell, right, we're expecting landfall of Idalia. We have a narrow stripe of anywhere from 6 to maybe as much as 8 to 9 inches of rain going up through this portion right here of Florida. And then you got an area right here in eastern Georgia, which could expect 4 to 6 inches of rain also. So we're definitely going to get a lot of rain, okay? And then we're going to get the potential of flooding from storm surge, and then just flat out rain falling from the sky. We go a little bit further northeast, and we look at the Carolinas. A lot of this rain you're seeing over here is basically from a stalled frontal boundary from the rain that's falling right now and the rain that could potentially fall tomorrow. All this rain a little bit further confined to the coast is basically the impacts from Idalia that's going to move in, and we're going to have a lot of rain. It's going to be a solid shield of heavy tropical rains that's going to move in because of Idalia. So a lot of rain could potentially fall in eastern South Carolina, eastern North Carolina, especially southeast North Carolina, and then southeast and eastern and coastal regions of Georgia. So definitely expect a lot of flash flooding issues in all these regions. We look at storm surge, 8 to 12 feet of storm surge. This went up a foot. 8 to 12 feet of storm surge now expected into the Big Bend area of Florida. We got 4 to 7 feet of storm surge predicted for Tampa Bay, and 3 to 5 feet of storm surge down into the southwest coastline of Florida. We even are expecting storm surge for areas of the Panhandle of Florida. Now this could increase for the Panhandle of Florida if these west ticks continue. But look, even 2 to 4 feet of storm surge predicted for the coastline of Georgia and the coastline of South Carolina. I think that this could increase because we're going to have a big time flow that's basically pushing basically water, ocean water, into these areas like Charleston, Savannah, Hilton Head region, Beaufort. We can even get some storm surge into the Myrtle Beach area also. So this is things we have to watch out for. We're definitely going to have a mean onshore flow being basically pushed into this region for sure. If we look at winds, I know a lot of people are wondering about winds. That's probably what most people are wondering about is winds. So what we do know is the National Hurricane Center graphic basically have 100% chance to see tropical storm force winds into the Big Bend of Florida. Once we get into this area of dark red, that is an 80 to 90% chance to see a tropical storm force conditions, but we're going to see this well into the low country of South Carolina. One thing I will show you guys is the H-half-B model. And I would show you the HMON model, but it doesn't come up on Weatherbell for whatever reason. But you see this huge eye wall? This is very, very wide. This isn't some tight, confined eye wall based off this model run. This would bring 90 to 110 mile per hour winds well away from the center of circulation, the center of low pressure, okay? And this basically gets pushed into the northern Big Bend, far eastern panhandle of Florida region and brings devastation to this region. But if you keep this going, guys, you still got a core well into southern areas of Georgia and winds still pushing hurricane force conditions, guys, into this region, which is 74, 75 miles per hour or higher, well into Georgia. So this is going to be a rough afternoon and evening for southeast Georgia also. Okay, this definitely is. So this will continue. It's still packing a punch into the low country of South Carolina. And look at this onshore flow that you're seeing here. Okay, look at these intense... okay, all right, it's working now. Look at these intense winds. I guess it's just kind of quit working for me. But I guess one arrow would deal. Basically, this is the center of circulation. This is that flow wrapping around that center of circulation, and you're getting some big-time water being pushed into the coastal regions of South Carolina with this scenario. So I think this is going to be a big deal for South Carolina and Georgia too, especially if you live along the southern coastline of South Carolina. I really do think it is. Another risk we need to be aware of is the tornado risk, even as early as getting into tomorrow. There is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location in this brown area for tomorrow, okay? And that is because the dirty side of this tropical system, the right quadrant of this system, is going to basically lash the Florida Peninsula. So we're going to get some, the possibility of some tornadoes starting late tomorrow, especially late tomorrow in this region. And then we got to watch out for Wednesday too, where there is a slight risk, and there's going to be a 5% risk of a tornado issued for this slight risk also. So there's going to be a tornado threat too with this. So there normally is with any kind of tropical system on the right side. So, and if you look at this, this is that low-level jet on the right side of Idalia. And as you can tell, this is a raging 60 to 80 knot low-level jet basically blasting over the peninsula of Florida. So you're going to have a threat for tornadoes all night tomorrow night into tomorrow morning into Florida. And then this is going to potentially bring a tornado threat depending on how west this tracks. If this tracks further west into South Georgia, then you're going to have a bigger tornado threat for southeast and eastern Georgia, maybe even to the low country of South Carolina. So that's all I got, guys. That was a struggle bus to make it through. Definitely did not flow as well as this morning's video. I do apologize. When you make 2 videos a day and you talk for literally 30 minutes straight, it's not always going to flow well. But I hope the information got to you well. We'll do it again tomorrow morning. And yeah, let me get off this video and tend to my little girls in the background. God bless all y'all. Have a great evening. And I hope you guys are getting prepared.